There are stories that connect us to ourselves and to each other. These stories reveal who we are and show us the many vivid colors of our truth. Welcome to Soul Wanderings, where we raise spiritual awareness and foster connections through these shared stories and personal experiences. Now, exclusively on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, your hosts, AJ and Natalie.
Hello, hello, hello. I was clapping. I don't know if you can hear me. And I'm like, oh, we're on air. Stop clapping. I just get so excited to soul wander.
No.
Hello, Natalie.
Hello, AJ.
Welcome to Soul Wanderings. And Wanders, welcome to Soul Wanderings. We're happy to have you here tonight on a holiday eve. We hope that you are getting to join us and taking a moment for yourself before the hustle and bustle that is to come in most people's worlds. It's just the energy, right? It's where we're at as people, but we're going to talk about that. We are going to talk about oneness tonight. But before we do, a little show announcement. We are back on YouTube with KGRA Digital Broadcasting. We're also on YouTube at Soul Wanderings and on Facebook, Rumble, and live.kgradb.com. So many places for you to listen live. And if you're catching a replay, I hope it's on your favorite listening platform because we happen to be on all of them. And it's Wednesday night. Hi.
Hi. That's a lot of places for people to choose from.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Which one will you go for? I like YouTube.
A lot of people see. That's the default.
I do. I really like YouTube because that's where you guys find us a lot of times. And also, of course, our favorite place, live.kgradb.com. If you want to learn more about Natalie and myself, we are over on kgradb.com on Wednesday nights under shows and hosts, and then Soul Wanderings. And you can also visit us at soulwanderings.com if you want to know more about us. We've been doing this thing for a while now, not just the show, but like the things that we do.
Oh, yeah.
The things that we do, we've been doing for a while. Well, you much longer than me.
I don't know about that.
My spiritual journey has only been 12 years. That's not very long in the big scheme of things.
I guess it has been longer than that because I remember my late teens just having some spiritual conversations and nothing like what I have now, but I guess it's the process of life anyway, is
well, if you want
growth
to
and evolution
and
those types of things. But I remember studying.
If you want to get like technical, yeah, we've been doing this for way longer than we've been doing this. Now we found our place.
How many lifetimes? How many lifetimes? How do you even count? How many lifetimes?
Count that.
I don't know. Put a number to it.
It doesn't really matter. There is no time. There is no concept of time in the universe, and we are all spiritual beings having this experience right now. So it's irrelevant.
It definitely
is that we are here right now.
Always in the now.
So good.
Wednesday. Talking about oneness. Are you ready?
Hashtag Wandering Wednesday. I am so ready to talk about this subject. Seriously. This is what is so cool. So on Mondays and Tuesdays lately, I've been filling my books up with appointments to give Akashic record readings. And there is a common theme We are all so super connected, and it's just beautiful. And so I love that we had already pre-selected this as a topic, in alignment with our previous topics, with what's going on in the world, and also the holidays that are coming up. And they're very intentional, the way that we have put this together, where we don't put a lot of homework or research, I would say, beforehand. We do come up with the topics. We fill on those. We're very intentional on what that looks like. And so this one was, way down the line when we made our topic list, and I have been in anticipation. I'm pumped. Let's do it.
I'm gonna have you go first today and give us some intro into it, and then I can respond.
Oh my goodness, me go first. Well, that's interesting. Okay, so let me just be how would I do this? Okay, oneness. Give me just a minute. You usually go first. Put me on the spot.
Were you ready for me to go first?
Okay, but I can do this, but I'm going to come from a different perspective at first, okay? Because this is something that's come up, because I like to go down every pathway. So not like there are many forks in my road. So just hear me out, okay? We live in this multi-dimensional universe, right?
Right.
So what if one thing is true in one universe, but not in all? So what if oneness is a concept that we learn about here in human form, but it's not really something that we... Okay, let me go. What if oneness is an illusion? Like, what if it is something we tell in like spirituality circles in order to create a feeling or even an experience?
Sure.
Because in some spiritual beliefs, oneness is considered the ego, the separation of I, you as in I, within yourself, to know yourself. But how can there be an I and know that I when there is nothing to relate it to? I know it's out there, right?
Yes.
What if, play on that for a minute. So what if we push past that and expand our perspective even further than the oneness? Then maybe we will see there actually is no oneness that exists, but it maybe perhaps an illusion or even a perception of identity, seen as we are all one. It's kind of out there. But just what if we push past the oneness? So now thinking about that, let's talk about what oneness is as we know it to be in spirituality. Just a little food for thought.
That is a lot of food for thought.
It is a lot. It's a little much, but I just something I thought of. And what if the oneness is something we tell ourselves, like that we are all connected? I mean, how do we know? Is it a truth that we know, or is it a belief system, just like a religion, just like spirituality could be?
Well, I think all of these things are concepts that we put into words, which is inherently a limit that really can't even encapsulate the whole of it all anyway, because our minds aren't really able to truly understand all of whatever it is, because we can't see it, touch it. It's so much bigger than what we are. We have a hard time just wrapping our mind around the ocean, and it's a limited space. It's just on this planet and those things. So when I think about oneness, I'll use analogy and say, okay, so we have one body, one human body per person. And within that body are a whole complexity of things, organs and blood vessels and cellular structures and and skeletal things and all that stuff that's in there, but it's one body. But it's really complicated. So what if one cell decided, I don't want to be an ankle cell, I want to be an ear cell, and so I'm going to rebel from being the ankle cell and I'm going to be the ear cell, and decides to take and overly identifies like as something, but it's an ankle, so this type of thing that can be a distortion within a human of saying that there's this removal from exactly where you are, or just saying I want to do a different job or a different role or be something different. That's an analogy to say that's what would be going and saying I'm pulling myself out and being separate from all that is, and you can't really do that. We are, even if we just take, not even going as far as what you said, and you said we are one planet. We're not on a different planet. We're on Earth. So we're an aspect, and this planet peoples. So this planet creates people. And we think that people are on this planet, but people actually come from this planet. This planet itself creates people. It's like it creates apple trees and birds and bees and all the things. This Earth has people. An aspect of oneness that doesn't even have to get too far out to say, oh, well, we are all part of this one planet in this particular solar system. So there's
in this dimension.
Yes.
See, I just had to throw it out there in the beginning so then we can like rein it in.
Or go back out there too, because it's that too.
It is. Yeah, it's all encompassing, right?
Oh, yeah. I was just listening to a particular podcast before this show, and it wasn't people that I would think that were talking about that we jumped timelines, that we had like a fragmentation, some of the recent events that happened in this year that blasted us into another timeline, that a different timeline, something happened that didn't happen in this one. I was like, that is fascinating to hear how people do that. And if it branches, does that mean it's a different thing or still all one?
The questions. And will we ever know?
Does it even need to be a knowing?
Does it?
Does the knowing become a story, which becomes a religion, which becomes this tale that we tell ourselves that is just part of this life wandering soul thing that we do?
I know, right? Like we really can complicate things as humans, and then we get in our own ways by overthinking and overanalyzing and then putting it back together and taking it apart.
Right.
And I think that's healthy also if you put it back together in a way that feels good for you, because you are the creator of your universe, and at the end of the day, like you create your reality.
Yeah.
And so what feels good for you? What does that look like? What does that feel like?
Was that a question for me or a general
What is
question
true?
for the audience?
Yeah, just general, like what is real? Like we don't know.
No.
And that's the fun thing about this. And I really love the concept of spirituality because it is a very individualized belief and practice. And it's not someone else's dogma. It's not their traumas, it's not their control, it's not their lies, whatever that looks like. It's yours. Like no one can tell you how to be spiritual or a spiritual being. Like you get to figure that out for yourself in your own journey. And that's what I think after experimenting with many religions. I believe there's truth in all things. I am an omnist for sure. I just think that spirituality is such a beautiful gift because it allows us to like dive in deeper in more directions and like really find what resonates as truth for us.
Yes. So true.
Okay, Charles and his wisdom. Let's see what this.
Yes.
You want to go ahead and read it, Natalie?
A visceral moment of knowing that the molecules in my body, The molecules in the spacecraft and the molecules in my partners have been prototyped and manufactured in an ancient generation of stars. Wow. I like that.
There's more.
It was not an intellectual realization, but a deep knowing that was accompanied by a feeling of ecstasy and oneness that I had never experienced in that way before. So that was a quote by astronaut Edgar Mitchell. You know, the astronauts. Awesome. Yeah, the astronauts that go. I had a vision like that once. I was doing this martial arts program, and meditations were incorporated in that. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't during the time that I was there at the facility, but I was in my own bed, and I was blasted up and out and saw the earth from space in my mind's eye, and then came back down from that. That was quite an experience just to go out and see the earth in my mind's eye. Not even like I was watching it on a television show. There was this whole other
like
experience.
An out of body experience?
Maybe. I didn't really think about it like that, but it could have been
astral projection.
Like out there in space, the consciousness out there in space and seeing it. And yeah.
To be honest, I'm one of those people who are not quite sure if we've ever landed on the moon. I don't know if astronauts really went anywhere. I just don't know if I can eat that. I'm not sure about that. There are just so many questions and not enough like proof, not enough real answers. And if we've been to the moon, why haven't we been back? Is it because we weren't welcome and they said never come here again? Or is it because it was all made up?
Some have said it was because there was a loss of a brain drain of the technology of people that.
Yeah, because we've gotten less intelligent as the years have gone by, which is such a great thing to talk about because it all has to do with oneness, right? Seriously.
Yes.
So, okay. So yeah, I have something coming up.
Let's do it.
Talking about oneness and talking about like past civilizations, right? So the thing is, for thousands of years, like the Mayans and the Hopi and like many others have shared about a time in the future when humanity would awaken to this higher consciousness. So we hear about it like we're going to shift from the third dimension to the fifth dimension. Like it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And they really believe this. They tell it in their tribes or wherever they've been, like this will change everything.
Right.
And these shifts would take place from darkness to light, and it would bring like a harmony. And I think that's the oneness that they're talking about. And I truly feel like right now in this moment, like the time is now. Like there's an awakening taking place in the hearts and minds of people. I really truly feel that. I see that. I'm around that. Don't you think that's true? Do you feel that same way?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think people are realizing that reality is like literally forming and taking shape as we manifest it, like where we put our energy. And they're starting to see that. So like, even with you, when you think about like the political stuff that just took place and how so many shifted from one side that they were always on to another side, because they were like, oh, okay, I can see like something's happening here. It doesn't resonate the same. It doesn't feel right for me. I'm going to just head over to this side because that's resonating with me more. And I'm not saying one side is better than the other or right or wrong. Please do not take this politically. But I truly feel like right now there's this awakening and people are realizing that. And so where they put their energy. And so I think also with that, we're waking up to who we really are. We're having these memories. We're remembering like ancient wisdoms and truth of this oneness, that like this balance between people. And not just people, but like all living things, right? Because
Right.
it's not just about people, it's about the trees and the oceans and
Hmm.
like everything that has energy, which is everything.
Everything.
There's just, you think about like all the chaos that's happening in the world, but it has to happen. It has to happen so that we can see like what's really taking place. And also where the attention goes, the energy flows, and we are choosing now to stop feeding these beasts, if you will, because we see like these agendas starting to come out. We see that not everything is what it seems. And so I think people are waking up and they're choosing themselves. They're like, well, I got to get my shit together, right? I've got to heal myself. And most of all, I think it's not just always about doing the healing, but just seeing yourself and loving, like truly loving your soul, like really working through that. And I think we're choosing to live more consciously to create our realities. And I think they're going to be like really new, beautiful realities where there's no conflict. There's no room for conflict, actually. We don't even think about it. It's not even in our awareness. And we can't doubt our greatness because everyone's getting on board, and so everyone being fragments of another, we're all supporting each other in that way. I think that's really, really cool. But go ahead.
It is the potential of hopping on board those things and the awakening that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much during this time where there's so much information available. You can discover a lot of things, and you can view things. And this goes towards understanding that you can create your own reality, and you can open up to have so much more input,
Mm-hmm.
and then have a greater awareness because there is so much information available
Mm-hmm.
that it's a bit harder to be duped and limited. And then you can understand that there is more beyond just the concrete nature, like the metaphysical experience. And we keep building on things that we understood previously. I
Yeah.
also heard today in the discussion, it was interesting to reaching back and reading text, the inspirational text. This isn't spiritual as much as consciousness or philosophical,
Mm-hmm.
that where people wrote hundreds of years ago, like Marcus Aurelius and the Meditations and the Chinese wisdom and literature that's available. And there is still this common thread from those great thinkers back then, and that stuff is still applicable, and it still resonates, and it still lends wisdom to our minds. So we're one even with them that was hundreds of years ago. There's this common thread and oneness that connects us with ancient peoples, just like what you were mentioning with the
Mm-hmm.
prophecies of the Mayans and the Hopis, and their prophecies go through all of these hundreds of years. And in reality, I guess there isn't a separation if we're living out that whole timeline,
Mm-hmm.
all these different ways to have oneness, connectedness.
Yeah, I think that we've just outgrown like the old paradigms, right? But also we're going back to older times. Like we're moving backwards to more simpler ways of life because that's what brought us connection. When we lived in smaller communities and we bartered and traded and we helped our neighbors, we didn't have televisions and media, and we didn't have the access points in which we could be more manipulated and controlled. And so there was more togetherness. There was more units of ability to remember that we are all one. I think that we've really gone backwards in a lot of ways. And I also feel like we're going back that way, which is really crazy to wrap our mind around, where we've come so far with technology, but have we really? Like, or are they just tools for us to be more manipulated and controlled? And also, look what we're doing. We're on a radio show being broadcasted to all these other places. So it's not, I mean, I guess you could even look at this as a way of control or manipulation, depending on where you're coming from. Everyone has an opinion, right?
Right.
But I digress. Like, I just feel like we really are outgrowing that. Like, we've been taught that we are separate from one another in these places.
Right.
And we've been told lie after lie to create this fear-based agenda. And the oneness really happens when we remember who we are, because along the way, or even at birth, right, we forget where we came from. We forget that we've always been connected.
Mm-hmm.
And we forgot that we are all one. Like, we are literally all pieces of the same divine energy. And I'm really excited for what's to come, actually. And I really feel like it's in the near future. And I do believe it will be sooner than later. But people are literally grasping. They're like grabbing at anything and everything they can right now to obtain something more than what it is now, because it is chaotic and it is heavy. And I think in that, like, reaching and connecting to themselves, that more and more people are going to get on board and see what has truly been occurring, and the more connection will occur in those spaces, because it's a ripple effect, right? When you're around
Right.
people who are like shining brightly, you want to shine with them because it feels really good. And then you realize, like, oh, I have that in common with you. Oh, yeah, we can be really good friends. But it goes even deeper than that. Once we get the filters removed, because they are there,
Mm-hmm.
they have been placed there, we're going to have that remembering of those soul connections that we have, that we've always had, that have just been masked in this incarnation because we're having this human experience. But I really feel like right now, like, I feel like we're all here for this, right? We're all here for this reason, because we're the change makers, and we're the ones that are going to create this oneness together. And we were like, hey, pick me. I want to be part of this revolution. I want to do this. We didn't realize how hard it would be. We didn't realize what a shit show it would be, but we're here for it, right? And I think that's really exciting. And for right now, where we have been separated and we have been told how we should and shouldn't be, and we have been programmed to forget that we're all versions of each other, that we all come from the same exact source, this beautiful divine energy. And when we remember that, we're powerful. And they don't want us to know how powerful we are. They don't want us to know that we don't believe in God, that we are God. Like, it just blows me away. But they're remembering when you like step out of that and you're like, oh, okay. It's so good. It's so good. It's like the best high ever. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
I just want to preach.
I want people to hear you, because I'm listening to you and realizing, for those that forget, the separation is so full of suffering and difficulty and loneliness, to be separated from that connectedness, that oneness.
Yeah, but even to be separated from yourself.
Yes, which is
because I am you and you are me.
Yes. Yes, but when it's limited and you don't have that openness, and go back to, I mean, you just talk about going back, but even through your life and my life, I've experienced that, caught up in the separation, caught up in I'm the only one going through it, caught up in this stuff. And that is part of what there is some still within our collective of the separation from each other. And then there's this tribal stuff that said, you are over there, and we take sides. And there's those aspects within this framework. To be caught in that is very difficult. It's full of suffering, and suffering is optional. It doesn't have to be one. As simple as understanding that we all have the heart that looks the same, and our blood is the same color, and we have that connection. If you're having a difficult time and you're not really catching this understanding of oneness, then we can go really simple. You don't have to take this big leap that may be too large for some. If they're listening to the show, I'd be surprised if they were in that. But if someone was listening to the show and to say, well, I don't know if I can get on that board with that oneness thing, but it's like, listen, you understand that we're all on the same planet, right? So we are on the same planet. That's one connection that we have. And then that if you were to take a human organ or a heart organ that looks the same, there may be variation in sizes, but they're essentially the same thing. And that we can find some connection within each other, with each other. No, you're on mute.
I'm on mute. I have to say, I put myself on mute so I can type, and you guys don't hear me going.
Now we do want to hear what you're saying, though.
Oh, I have nothing good to say, apparently. It wasn't meant to be heard because the universe muted me. No, but really, I lost what I was going to say because it was in the moment. Go ahead. We're good.
Well, yeah, I know. It's beautiful flow. So this part where I was talking about, there's times where you need to go little steps towards connectedness if it feels like it's too much of a gap. And there is within the framework of Buddhism, and it's not the only one that will have a sort of prayer or a philosophical concept where you can say I'm connected. Within Buddhism, there's this act of extending loving kindness to another. And it's a way of connecting your heart and sending your heart energy to another person and saying, I may not understand them. I may not necessarily want to go out to lunch with them, but I'm going to extend compassion and loving kindness to them because that feels that's beneficial to do. So connecting like that, whether you intellectually understand it or not, where attention goes, energy flows. And that is dipping your toe into the energy ocean and saying, I want to extend this sort of energy to another person outside of me. They're not really outside of me because you're right. They are me over there. But there's times where people can't extend loving kindness to themselves, but they'll extend it to someone that's outside of them because they'll find it's easier to love another than their own self, which is difficult. But
okay, so let's talk about that for a minute, though, right? Because there's a saying that says, if you can't love yourself, how can you love another person? How can you love someone else? Do you believe that?
Yes, I do. Through all the things that I've learned and all in my profession, I find that it's not as deeply loving another if you really don't have a strong sense of loving your own self. But it's an extended out there inward sort of thing because you haven't healed all the different things. So we're going to go over there and we're going to love them because you're not worthy. But there is such a deeper connection when you do love yourself and then you give the best of yourself to the world. So I do believe that. It may be difficult to completely articulate, but I can say, no, it's not. I'm not trying to cast doubt on someone saying that they love another. It's just that there's such a deeper loving that a lot of times people will say, I'm going to love over here, and maybe that will come over to me in that way. But it's such a sad thing. My heart feels heavy when someone doesn't love themselves. Like, you're the one person you're with 24/7. If you that's like such a vital relationship, because energy doesn't lie. If you're on the inside having a nasty experience, and then you say, but I don't say that out loud, but energy doesn't really lie. And then you're creating an image that it's all rosy. Energy really doesn't lie. And I say this truthfully from being around a bunch of people that can see me. I realized that when I started interacting with people that had unknown talents or ways of seeing that I don't have, and I still don't have, they have their ways, I have my ways. I realized that we're kind of essentially naked, running around in the world a little bit naked. Like, people can see. They can see.
It's so
It's like, okay, let's just have a healthier sense of self, and then I don't have to worry about. I heard it said the other day. I heard someone say, "Just don't lie, just don't lie, and your whole life will change. If you stop lying, your world will change."
I believe that.
And it's that kind of thing to say, well, let's figure out how to love myself, especially with the oneness thing.
Right.
But I don't know. This is interesting to talk about this, because does that make you, I don't think that it makes you egotistical. That's a different kind of a love of
That's
self.
a different kind of love.
Yeah, that's not the love that we're talking about. So do you believe it? That you can't love another without loving yourself?
Interesting. I've thought about this quite a bit, actually, and all I can do is relate it to my own experiences. My experiences in the past is like, from the past, I've really felt that I have loved. I really have. And I think my intentions were good most of the time. And also, I think that a lot of the love came from a very selfish place, like, because I wanted to be loved. Right. And so I was giving what I thought was love, only to find out that it came from a place of fear and trauma. But once I really worked on myself and discovered me and learned to love me from a very authentic space, my concept of love also changed. And so now, today, I would say, when I would hear someone say you can't love someone else unless you love yourself, I used to get very defensive. And now, for myself, I know that to be true. I really feel like I've never loved in the depths that I am capable of now in the past, because I didn't love myself that way. And now that I love myself fiercely, and I choose myself above all, I am capable of holding space for deep, profound love for another human being like I've never known before.
Yes, that's how I would say it, is that you love at a certain depth, and you can't really offer to someone else what you don't have inside of you.
Right. And I'm not saying that people who, like, because I go back to my younger self, right, where I was like, you guys are saying that I'm not capable of love. And I would get really defensive in these conversations. Like, I love that person. Like, I would die on a hill for that person. But, looking back, I'm like, was that love? Was it though?
Well, it's not like the love that you experience now, but it was
Right.
all you could give at the time.
Exactly. And that's the other thing, right? We only know what we know when we know it. And so I say that every day to somebody, I swear. But it's true. And I have to remind myself that also. And if I'm showing up more for other people and I'm not willing to show up that way for myself, then I know I have work to do.
It's
And that
true.
includes love. And that includes connection. If I cannot connect with myself, I cannot connect with you.
Right.
And so it takes away those aspects. It doesn't negate the fact that we are all connected and that we
No.
are all pieces and aspects of each other. We are all of this oneness, but there's always work to be done, right? We always get to work on ourselves. And so this is part of that, is part of the human experience, is coming back to you. Like, who are you? And what are your favorite things? And what kind of music do you like to listen to? And what books do you read? And what's your favorite pastime? And what does your soul feel like? And have you like really sat with yourself in these deep emotions and really taken the time to get to know all aspects of yourself?
Right.
You're willing to do that for somebody else. You want to like really learn about so and so, but hi, you're with you 24/7. You have so much opportunity to get to know you.
So true.
It is.
So I want to ask you, this is like shifting slightly different, but still with the oneness. But because you've been learning about the Akashic records and how things are recorded from individuals into the consciousness field. So I want to talk about that for a minute as far as oneness, to say we're all in a consciousness field, and this consciousness field is one thing, right? In one dimension at a time, or it isn't.
I don't see it that way when I go into the records.
Okay.
So I really feel like the oneness is a human concept, but it's an important concept, and it's still true. It's still true to us in this human experience.
Okay. So like a cat would be a cat, but in a different language, it would maybe called a different name.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but the feline would be a feline. So a cat, a feline could be called a gato in Spanish. That is it along those
I
lines?
think that's a good way to, I think that would be a good way to put it. The thing with the records, there's so much going on there, right? So
Right.
the records are, for those of you who don't know, the Akashic records are an energetic library. They're not a location or a place in space and time. They're literally an energetic library of every thought, action, deed, life, past life, present life, future life, galactic life, human life, whatever that looks like. And literally you're the one that writes your book, not just by your experiences, but also by your unconscious thoughts. So you're constantly sending information to your library, and everyone has their own. And you can access, anyone can access the records. It just takes a lot of practice. Some people, I think some people have probably gotten it pretty quickly and easily. For me, it was something I had to practice and develop over time. And it really is amazing what comes forward, because even in different lifetimes and different dimensions, like, you are always connected to those versions of yourself. It's not just about a oneness with others. It is also a oneness to who you were in past lives, in multidimensional lives, in future lives, in lives that are playing out concurrently, like all over the place. And so there's a lot of information. No, you can't access it all at once. all the information that's given to you is what's best for you in this moment, for you, like for your best and highest good. Yeah. And there's a comment, I don't even know if I can access or if I'm capable of accessing the Akashic. Everyone. I don't think there's one person. I really believe where there's a will, there's a way. It's not an ability. It literally is something we all can do. Just like when people say, I'm not psychic, I'm not a medium, I don't see spirit. Well, not everyone sees spirit. We all have different clairabilities, and information is processed in different ways through those different clairabilities. And or download. Like that's what I get. I get a lot of downloads. And I just know I'm claircognizant. I just know that what I'm getting is true. I feel it in my soul when the information is given to me, and I can't question it anymore because every time that I have, I've been proven wrong. I just waste my time. And so I get to trust that what information comes through me is what is meant to be for me or for whoever I'm delivering the information to. And so I don't try to make it fit. I don't try to understand what it is. I just get the information and share it. And it might not make sense to me, but like 99% of the time, it's made sense to everyone else. So, and if it doesn't, the 1%, they come back and say it did later. So,
I think that to that comment, a lot of times people don't realize that something that's in our unconscious or in that realm will actually come through our intuitive self. And they just don't really, they've never formulated that is actually, until you go through a training program and then you get and you practice it, then you realize that perhaps had come through before. You just didn't realize that's what you were doing. So people can tune to their intuitive self, which connects them to the greater consciousness and connects them to a different oneness than just our, that we may have been limited in our thinking but realize that we're tuned into something bigger. One of the reasons why I wanted to bring that up was karma is an action. In many philosophies, they say when we're having multiple lifetimes and we're living out karma, it means that there's going to be this lifetime is formatted and created and lays out in a particular way, and it has very karmic reasons or things that we encounter. Whatever we're encountering in our life is for us. The universe provides us and guides us with what's unfolding in our life. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is because in this oneness understanding or concept or consciousness field, our actions make a difference. So why is it helpful for us to improve ourselves and evolve? Because it affects the greater whole.
Yes, I wanted to get to that, and I'm glad you're bringing that up. That's good.
Right. So then if we're creating that, like, your actions matter and the frequency that holds yourself in matters because it goes into this greater consciousness. So it's helpful to do our own work. It's helpful to keep our light shining and bright.
Right. Because again, where energy is, wherever attention goes, it flows. And it literally is true. It's been proven scientifically. It's not some woo-woo spirituality thing we're trying to tell you. It's like facts. And that's what I love too, right? Because yes, I believe in spirituality and I believe in a lot of things people would consider woo-woo, but also I'm an investigator. I go down every trail I can go down to find evidence that what I'm receiving is real to a certain degree. I love the science behind all of it. I don't always understand it, but I appreciate it. And I think it's important for all of us to do the homework when it comes to any topic, even oneness. And especially if you're new to it, well, how do you get started in this belief? How do you want to feel this good because you know that we are all one? Love yourself. Work on that relationship with yourself. Because when you work on healing yourself, you're healing everyone. You're giving them that spark to be able to, oh, yeah, let me work on myself too. That feels good. That's what I ought to be doing in this moment. And it just literally creates this ripple effect, like I said, and it becomes contagious because when it feels good, people are attracted to that and they want to feel good too. It's just like all the hate in the world. You see all of this negativity that's happening. It's because someone influenced someone else and to influence someone else. And then they created all this anger, and anger is energy, just like love. And it's like, what do you want to feel? Does that feel good to you? Is that what you want? Well, then go have that experience for this reality of yours, because that's part of this whole human journey. But I'm not choosing that. I've had that in my life. I don't want it. I know it feels caca. I don't want to live in that space. I want to be connected. I want to look at you, Natalie, and see all the things that I am. And I want you to look at me and see all the things that you are. And I think that feels good. And so that's what I choose to show up and believe.
Yeah. I agree with that.
So whether this is just a concept or something that the spiritual based, people believe and tell ourselves, okay, it still feels true to me. And that's the beautiful thing about spirituality, is it gets to be your own. It gets to be your own. So,
indeed, it does.
Any final words before we wrap up for this evening?
So this is an interesting concept to take into tomorrow, where you may or may not like all your relatives or whoever it is you're going to be interacting with.
Yeah.
But it's really it's beneficial to appreciate that everyone brings their own unique personality.
Yeah.
And so I want to just give this one little thing that said oneness. I want to say oneness is that a differentiation. So bring in just a tiny bit of the sliver of human design that said we're all differentiated. And so oneness being as the aspect that we all have a uniqueness, a piece of the whole puzzle, and each piece is unique, and that's its own oneness that says that we get to be an individual and to be one in the ocean. And so we're one drop in the ocean, or one grain of sand on the beach, and we're part of the beach, but we're also that grain of sand. So take your unique self and see if you can appreciate that. If there's a relative or someone that you don't necessarily love, see if you can find one thing that you can appreciate about the person that loves you.
That's what I was going to say.
Oh no, I stole it from you.
Well, that's good. That's good. All I was going to say is be the observer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sit back and appreciate at least one thing about each person that you're with tomorrow, because what you see in them is also an aspect of yourself. Yes. And it allows you to connect to you and love yourself even deeper.
It's true. Lovely.
I think it's so good. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of like the holiday belief around Thanksgiving, but I love Thanksgiving just to make, because I love to cook and feed people. And I love to be around family and friends and just have a reason to celebrate and be grateful. So I cannot end the show without saying that I'm grateful for you, Miss Natalie. And I'm super grateful for Chanel for being our producer. And to all of you wanderers, especially, we are so grateful for all of you. Have a beautiful day tomorrow. Don't take it too seriously. And we'll see you all next week. Good night.
Good night. Enjoy.